Okay, our first actual episode of Star Wars Rebels. Droids in distress. In this episode, our Rebels crew is looking for they're trying to find some money, and while they're going into town or something to find money, I forget exactly where they're going, but they learn that there's a weapon shipment. Their plan is, these weapons are being sold to the Empire. Why don't we sell them? So they get their hands on the weapons, but the Empire shows up, and they have the deal is broken. They have to destroy the shipment. We learn a bit about Zeb's past and that Callus helped wipe out his species. They sell the weapons to Bail Organa. Not weapons. I forget. They get some money from Bail Organa. And some really dumb tease about the origin of the Rebels Alliance. And yeah, they make money, and also Ezra's going to start training to be a Jedi soon. And that was the episode. So there's a bunch of issues I have. First off, this show is nothing special. I mean, most of my criticism comes from the fact that you took canceled this really cool and unique show to make room for this other show, which is nothing special. It's just a dumb average. It's like Ninja Turtles. It's that cute little Saturday morning cartoon that's no real substance, no real depth, just turn your brain off, be mildly entertained for an hour, just appeals to little kids. And I would be okay with that if it wasn't for two things. Number one, this is Star Wars. I love Star Wars, and I've seen so many great stories told through Star Wars. And, when you hear such great stories like KOTOR or Clone Wars, it kind of sets the standard for what you can tell Star Wars-wise. So when you just see this really simple, generic cartoon that's called Star Wars and is canon, you can't help but be disappointed. And also, it's just disappointing because I know that they canceled Clone Wars to have this show, and it doesn't feel worth it since, we should be having Season 7 of Clone Wars right now, and we should be on the second episode of the Bad Batch arc where Echo comes back. But I'm going to do a separate video on what arcs we should be getting for Clone Wars. But, oh well. But yeah, so it wasn't a bad episode. Again, it was fun action, but there was no real depth to it. Again, fun action, cool shooting stuff, but there was no real depth. I mean, we did get a bit of character stuff with Zeb, but not much. And that's the thing, we're not really getting to know these characters that well. And I think part of it is just because they're telling mini stories, mini adventures, whereas Clone Wars, they'd spread out a story over the course of several episodes. So that's probably why these episodes feel so short in comparison to Clone Wars, is because it's one 20-minute story as opposed to Clone Wars is we're going to spend 3 or 4 episodes telling this one story. And it's a shorter season, so I don't know. But yeah, we really aren't getting to know these characters that well. Again, we got to know Zeb a bit, which was nice, it's nice to know he has a bit of a dark past, and, his people got wiped out, which explains why no one's around, but still. Now, I did enjoy seeing R2 and 3PO. I enjoyed hearing Anthony Daniels voice 3PO, but do we really need them in this episode? I mean, those could have been any droids. I mean, it was enjoyable to see them, but it's they just felt kind of shoehorned in, like a ratings boost. Hey, you want to see R2 and 3PO? Well, here they are. And I mean, this early on, we shouldn't be shoehorning in classic Star Wars characters. We should be focusing on getting to know these new ones. So it was a little disappointing. Although again, it was enjoyable to see them. I just did like it. Although they did sort of dumb 3PO down a bit by making him unintentionally sell him out to the Empire, but he still sold him out to the Empire. But thankfully, they weren't working for the Empire. I was really worried they were going to do that. Because if they were, I'd be like, you fucking kidding me. But thankfully, they're working for Bail Organa. I'm so glad that was it. The animation, it's nice. It looks okay. Backgrounds look pretty good. They're making do with what low-budget animation they can have with some nice, beautiful backgrounds. Some vehicles look really good. Star Destroyer looks nice. The Stormtroopers look really good. It's the people that look not so good. They look really cartoony, and that looks a little weird. And I think a lot of that has to do with a couple things. One, I'm used to seeing these characters in live action, and Clone Wars went for more realistic animation, so the characters, it didn't look as off. And I think also has to do with the fact that some of these characters are characters I saw in Clone Wars, and they looked more or less like they did in the films, whereas here they have a more cartoony look. And Bail Organa, R2, and 3PO looked a little off. And it just cements this kiddie feeling I get while I'm watching the show. Like, the show's clearly aimed at little kids, which bums me because Clone Wars had a bit more universal appeal, but it didn't feel like it was dumbing itself down for kids. But yeah, especially that female who they stole the weapons from. Her cartoony look just threw me off. But yeah, I think I know I've said this a lot, but it's so true. This is not going to be anywhere as good as Clone Wars animation, or as good as Clone Wars for that matter, especially if the show keeps this up. Because the plots of these episodes, I really hope it doesn't become formulaic, because it feels like it is. I mean, every time they're trying to find something to steal from the Empire to sell to someone, they get away, but then something goes wrong and the Empire finds them. They have a bit of fight. Callus shows up. I swear, the shot where Callus drops down with the Stormtroopers, they reuse the exact same shot from the pilot. Which, I don't know, it just cements how lazy the animation is at times. Like, they have clearly low budget. Let's see, so... But yeah, they'll fight Callus. Callus will get knocked out. And rather than just finish Callus off, they'll just run away and allow him to attack him again. Rather than just, I don't know, either kill him or capture him or hold him hostage, and then their ship will fly off. Like, it's getting repetitive. I really hope not every episode of the show is like this. It's reminding me a lot of Season 1 of Clone Wars. Very basic, standard good versus evil, except... And I feel like Clone Wars is a bit more ambitious in what it was doing. But hopefully the show will pick up at some point. I mean, it's Season 1, but at the same time, it's like... You know, after Clone Wars, Dave Filoni, you really should know how to write and do a show, but... I don't know, maybe Disney's giving them a bunch of notes and telling them to make the show dumb it down for little kids. But yeah, this is nowhere near as good as Star Wars Clone Wars. I don't have anywhere near as much to say about the show, and it's nowhere near as engaging. And they've already greenlit it for another season, even though... Yeah, but... Just based on the pilot. Like, they aren't even waiting to see how the show's gonna do. Which means, just cements to me that Disney just wants to keep this show going for as long as possible, regardless of how it does. And another thing I'd like to point out is Filoni had a year to put this season together. And with Clone Wars, usually he'll write scripts like 2 or 3 years in advance of the season airing. They'll do concept art like 2 years in advance, and like... Point is, they'll have like 2 or 3 years to work on a season, whereas this time they had a year. So maybe they were just rushed. They didn't have as much time to really write a really thorough and detailed script. They probably didn't have time to really polish the animation. So maybe in later seasons when they aren't as rushed and Filoni has more than a year to work on a season, maybe the show will get better. But for right now, it's just dumb Saturday morning cartoon fun, which would be fine if we didn't get rid of an awesome show to make room for this one. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. This is JStar360, and I really hope the Force is with this show because it's clearly not.